Hi everyone, welcome back to Gillian's Art Flow. Thank you for joining me and welcome to a very special video. So before I go any further, I will say this is going to be a full tutorial video, so there's going to be quite a lot of talking in it. So if you don't like talking videos, sorry, maybe pop back next week, watch some of my other videos. Great. My very good friend and fellow YouTube artist, and she is a wonderful artist, Tiffany Ramaya. I will link her down below, up above somewhere. She's reached out to me and asked if I would do a tutorial of how I blend my background. Now, before we go any further, disclaimer coming up. I am in no way saying the way I do it is the only way and the correct way. I'm not. The way I do it is the way I'm comfortable doing it. I've watched tutorials by Indy Roo, by Rinska Downer. There's many artists on YouTube that do the backgrounds, the blended backgrounds, and I've probably watched them all. So I would suggest don't just watch me, go and watch other artists do it as well. I have got various tools that I use. Obviously I've got the canvas, I've got a paper plate or cardboard. Sometimes I use this where I put my paint. It's acrylic paint I use. Now I go mostly straight from the jar down onto the paper plate. You can mix it if you want to, but if you mix it with water, Alitrol, Floetrol, whatever you use to mix, don't mix it so it's thin, and you really want to mix it thicker than you would even if you were tilting. You need to put very little in there, so you need to keep it quite thick. Be careful if you're using transparent colors. If you are, try and get a color close to the one that you want to use in tone, that isn't transparent, that's opaque. Pop some of that in. It will help the transparency, will go away. Or use a tiny bit of opaque white, but be careful you don't use too much white, otherwise you'll change the color of the actual paint you want to use. And there are many paint brushes. I'm going to be using initially black and white, so I put them down here. I will use two separate paint brushes. These are normal everyday household paint brushes. I'll use one for black, one for white, and then slowly bring them in and blend them in the middle to make grey, which you will see. I will then, because I want quite a smooth blend on this one, I don't want to see brush strokes, I will use what is known as a flat brush, very soft, and I'll come in on the end with that and blend it in to take out any brush strokes. I also sometimes use sponges. This is a baby sponge that I've cut up, and I use this to blend, and I've also used a straight catalyst, edge catalyst. So let's jump down onto the canvas and we'll get started. Hi everyone. Okay, I'm back. It's really weird because you don't actually know that I've been away, but I have been away. I had to get something sorted out. I'm just going to jig you slightly further over one side because I want a little bit more space here. Hopefully I'm still kept, there we go, that should be it. So you can see that I've got blobs of, sticking my fingers in, white, black and copper. You don't really, initially I wouldn't put more than that on. And I have got my two brushes. I missed some out there. Before I started adding the black paint, I spritzed the canvas just to damp it down. Because the acrylics dry quickly, you need to keep them damp. Now, I have learned to be very careful when spritzing onto the paint that's already on the canvas, you can end up with water spots on it. So on a lighter coloured paint, I will actually just dampen the tip of the paintbrush. On darker colours, I will spritz. If you do spritz, you need to stop sort of brushing again straight away. The other thing that I discovered, there's lots of things I discovered, put a little bit of paint down on your canvas at a time. The amount of times I've put too much paint and you can't get, it's hard to, then you've got to scrape it and it goes muddy. So add a little bit of paint at a time. I was using white and black, and it suddenly dawned on me when I was putting the white down that that wasn't a good contrast. But it was almost, I was trying to demonstrate that you need different brushes initially when you're putting your paints down, because obviously if I now started brushing the black section with the paintbrush I've got in my hand that's got white paint on, that white paint's going to go up into the black, and I don't necessarily want that. So just remember, whatever colour paint's on the end of your paintbrush, that's the colour paint that's going to go onto the canvas or the paints that you're putting it on. Here I add beautiful copper. And I made the mistake here that I put it on using a lollipop sticker spatula. Now, I've learned when I do this, particularly with high pigmented paints, you can end up not being able to blend it properly, because as soon as that paint goes onto the canvas, it almost dyes the canvas and you can't blend it in. So where possible, I would say err on the side of caution and actually use a paintbrush to do your blending. As you can see, it's already looking pretty blended, but have you noticed how the colour, the copper, is kind of, the vibrancy has gone? So a eureka moment for me, and it made me laugh when I figured it out. The more you brush, the more you blend, the more you take the actual original colour from the paint, because obviously you're brushing it away. So this was another game changer. Think of blending as putting your paint on in layers. So in a minute I will add more copper, because I want the copper to become brighter. And again, you can see me going up and down from the white into the copper, and you see the copper going further down. Using this paintbrush, the flat paintbrush, is a very, very soft paintbrush, and what it actually does is it's almost like gives it a finite blend. Now when you're sanding something, you start with a rough sand and a sandpaper, and you go down in gradient or up in gradient, you never tell, to get a finer sandpaper. That's kind of what you're doing with the paintbrushes. The initial paintbrushes are quite rough and leave brush marks. These they're flat paintbrushes, very, very soft. They will give it a nice, smooth, soft blend. Sometimes I use these finally to do a soft blend. Other times I don't, because I want that raw industrial kind of feel with the paintbrush marks. And as you can see, I'm adding more black because the black had lost a bit of blackness. And this is what I went back to earlier when I was saying about layering your paint on. And just remember, whatever colour's on your paintbrush, that's the colour that's going to obviously come off onto the canvas. So if I carried on painting down the canvas with that paintbrush, the black paint would go down through the copper and down onto the white. So if you don't want that to happen, don't go all the way down. If I don't want the black to overtake the copper, but I don't mind if the copper goes into the black or the white, so I'll move the copper between the black and the white, so I get some in the white and some in the black. You guys, you get how it goes. So as you can see, I've put some more copper on, obviously used a spatula or a lollipop stick again, and haven't straight away started brushing it. So this is what I was saying earlier about it marking the canvas. Clearly I'm just going over it with some white paint, but just so you know, when it happens, there's really not much you can do about it. You've just got to paint over it until you can get rid of the marks. So it's not a quick process. This is highly edited because it was quite a long video. I would say, look, take your time, enjoy the process, enjoy watching what happens as you add more and more layers. Above all, be really patient. That's I think that might be the key to it, is just be patient with yourself and be patient with the process. So back again, right, this is about 4 days later, and I then decided to take it a bit further because it felt a bit undone. So I've now added gold, and this just shows you that even if you get called away, you've got to do something, you can come back and blend again. Blending is different. You see how the gold there isn't blending completely into the black, but it's on top of it. So this is how you get this kind of effect. So we talked about layers before. Now we're coming in and we're putting a second layer, if you like, of blending on. And it's the same process. So remembering, the more you brush, the more it blends. So you'll see on this clip that I don't actually brush so much. So I guess if you're blending and you look at it going, it's not blending enough, brush a bit more. That's the only thing I can think to say to you is, you know, just brush a bit more. The more you brush, remember, the more you brush, the more you blend. So keep brushing. As you can see on this, the blending is a little bit different because it's a bit, I would say it's a bit raw, more raw. I think if I was going to leave you with some final thoughts, I would say to practice with contrasting colours so you can see. You don't have to spend a fortune. Those flat brushes, I buy them a packet of 3 different sizes on Amazon for under £5. Use little paint and add it as often as you need to, but add it a little bit at a time. If you want, as you can see there, there are truly different layers. If you want that effect, let each layer that you put on dry before you add the layer on top of it to get this sort of patch almost effect. And like I said, be patient with yourself. You're learning, it's called practice, it's not called perfect. And be patient with your process. And you know, what at first looks like a failure maybe isn't. So remember, occasionally step away from your painting and then come back with a fresh pair of eyes. It actually does work really well. I hope you've enjoyed watching this video. I make no apologies for all the talking. You were warned, it was a tutorial, and I make no apologies for the end because I wanted to be as comprehensive as I could. Let me know, leave a comment down below, give me a thumbs up if you think I did well. If you would like to see any more tutorials along these lines, quite in-depth tutorial, do give me a shout in the comments. Take care, look after yourself, look after those around you. Until next time I'm around to put a video up, bye for now.